The Firebirds update is soon to arrive, not only bringing new vehicles, but also introducing massive visual improvements and a host of long-awaited special effects. Let's take a peek at what you're going to experience in the brand new version of War Thunder. The most noticeable visual change brought by this update is the support for RTX ray tracing. Lighting, shadows, reflections, all have become much more realistic and visually appealing. Now you can see real objects reflected in glass and puddles, which is especially striking in locations like Alaska or Sun City. Gorgeous seaside sunsets, the mist of rain over gloomy Ardennes, it's breathtaking. And the list of visual improvements doesn't stop there. Let's start with naval battles. Large-scale skirmishes now have a lasting impact on the world. Sinking ships have traces of wreckage, with debris floating to the surface. The size of the wreckage depends on the ship's size, so large battleships can leave enough floating parts to fill a small boat. Now onto aviation, starting with revamped airfield models. New meteorological stations and other service buildings have been added, and we've also updated textures on existing structures. Furthermore, in wet weather, you'll finally see puddles on runways. Aircraft now handle differently on various surfaces, which is especially noticeable when trying to land on concrete with damaged landing gear. For jet aircraft, we've put some extra care in the effects showing the vortices formed by air pressure differences on either side of the wing. Furthermore, engaging afterburners will now produce a more detailed and realistic visual effect, and you'll be able to clearly see shock diamonds, formations of standing wave patterns that appear in the supersonic exhaust plume. Plus, the afterburner flame color now varies between planes, reflecting each engine's unique specifications. Missiles exploding in the air now do it with extra flair, producing more noticeable and detailed debris. When an anti-air missile is destroyed, its engine compartment may even continue moving for a bit, purely as a visual effect. Next up, ground battles. The classic abandoned factory map, added 8 years ago, has been thoroughly updated. Familiar routes and cover spots are all still there, but textures and visual effects have been completely redone. All factory buildings and administrative areas now have a fresh look. Concrete walls and ceilings appear realistically worn, with chipped, faded, and sometimes almost untouched bricks. Some buildings now feature window frames with partially intact glass, and shadows are much more defined. The interiors of abandoned buildings have also received a facelift, with crates, vehicles, and industrial materials now scattered throughout once empty hangars. Additionally, there are new special effects: floating dust in the air and sparking wall lights. Speaking of sparks, they have also been improved, making gunfire, explosions, shell impacts, and fires look even more lifelike. Burning fuel spilling out of vehicles now looks more detailed and has more variations. Transitions between different textures have been smoothed all across the control, and those patterns are never repeated. That's especially noticeable with edges of asphalt roads and coal piles. They appear significantly more realistic, partially thanks to new models. The new central area of the map feels more like acclaimed by grass sprout between the tiles, and there are patches of rust on metal tanks. The neighboring area has new structures, concrete slabs and rings, which not only make the location visually more interesting, but also serve as potential cover. Freight cars on the railway tracks no longer block tank movement. They can be pushed aside to clear the way. Countless new details now populate the map, adding to its authentic feel. For instance, there are power cables and pipes scattered near work sites, and next to hangars you can see bricks that have fallen off of them. Finally, there's noticeably more mud, just like in real life, especially on the dirt roads around factory workshops. All ground maps now feature puddles that blend better with the vehicles moving through get dirty in a much more visible and realistic way. There's also a new deformation system for objects that's been added on maps for mixed battles. So if you go over parked cars and trailers, they will now crumple gradually under pressure, instead of simply shattering. In addition, new effects have been added to reflect how ground vehicles interact with different surfaces. For example, dirt and dust kicked up by tires are now much more visible. Finally, there was a massive overhaul of weather effects. Falling snow and rain now look significantly more realistic. Which new graphics feature of the Firebirds update is your favorite? Share your opinion in the comments below.